Welcome y'all, Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to make a video now that the West Kentucky rifle season has ended and tell you which plots work best for us in 2023 so far, which plots I expect to come on in the muzzleloader season that opens in 10 days. 2023 was a different season for us. There was a lot of acorns on the ground, white oak and red oak. There was a lot of 60 and 70 degree temperatures throughout the 16-day rifle season that really limited the amount of daytime movement on those whitetails. But 2023 was a year something like that I haven't seen in a long time. You know, mainly here in Western Kentucky, there's a lot of ag land, and getting whitetails, mature whitetails, to come out into the field during that rut. And that's typically something that happens every year down here. The bucks chase the does are in the crop fields, they're in the food plots, and the bucks follow suit. Talked to many people that saw the same kind of thing that we did. It was very inconsistent. So you might hunt a field one day and you might see 30 or 40 deer, and you might hunt it the next day and you might only see 2 or 3 deer. It was very inconsistent, but overall there was a pattern this year on the whitetails of what food plots they use. Now, if you follow my channel for very long, you understand that I have a wide swath of food plots that I plant over this 1,800 acres. I've got multiple brassica plots. I have got standing corn, standing soybeans, standing lab. I have got cereal rye, winter wheat, buck forage oats, alfalfa, clover, you name it, we pretty much have it planted across the 1,800 acres. So it's really good to be able to shake down and look at all these and see which produced the best and which produced the worst. What we saw in 2023 as far as plots getting used, which ones got used the most, which ones got used the least. 2023, there's no question about the biggest food source that the whitetails had with the acorns. The white oak acorns were gigantic this year. You know, they were 1.5 inches long and as big around as a quarter. Just huge. I've never seen white oak acorns that big in my life. But this is 4 years in a row of above average white oak crop. So the old tale of every other year is not true. I can tell you that from experience. I had an old man tell me one time that white oaks produce good or bad depending upon a late frost that spring. That makes a lot of sense to me because we haven't had a late killing freeze on up into, you know, mid-April, late April, early May like we have in some years. Very little plot movement in any of our plots on any of the farms. There was some plots that did better this year. I'm shocked at this, but I'll admit it. Clover was one of the better food plots that I had during this year. Planted some crimson clover very early in the fall on a swampy farm. Very dry, but that swamp held a lot of moisture and it got a lot of good growth. And the whitetails hit it consistently all fall long. Now, I think that what made that plot better this year was our warm temperatures. You know, we see deer utilizing clover a lot more in the warmer temperatures, or at least we do up here, or in my neck of the woods. We see it over the summer, in the fall, in the early spring, temperatures are higher. And typically when the cold gets really bad, I don't see a lot of deer on clover fields. But this year, clover did extremely well on that farm that I planted. It held a lot of deer. It gave us chances at 2 very good quality bucks. We weren't able to close the deal on them, but we had that opportunity, and I am 100% convinced that that clover was the reason that we did it. We'd hunted that farm for a couple years with very minimal success, and planted that food plot this year. It had brassica food plot, and then the deer were keeping the brassicas ate down. I went in and I sowed some crimson clover with it, and just to use for this fall. I wasn't necessarily wanting it for next spring, but that combination there was a very good thing for the whitetails. That gave us chances at multiple mature bucks coming out of that swamp. It was holding the does well, and that was the game changer on that farm. Standing corn. As many of you know, standing corn is my favorite food plot to produce. I think that is standalone the best one. This year it was not. The standing corn food plots were very much, highs and lows. Sometimes they were great, others they were just awful. Once again, I contribute that to the 60, 70 degree temperatures that we had during gun season. Most of us think of corn as a cold crop. A whitetail is going to eat that corn to try to keep that heat up. Well, when it's 70 degrees, you're going to see a lot more greens being eaten and a lot less grain being eaten. And that was what happened. Now, I do think in our muzzleloader season come here in another 10 days, if we can kind of keep the temperatures that we have right now, I think the standing corn stands to make up a lot of ground during this later season. Probably the best overall of any of them would have to be the brassicas. I had 4 or 5 different plots of brassicas, and they really produced. We're standing here at the pallet patch. If y'all remember that I planted with the no-till drill, this was literally a parking lot for the farmer where he came here. A lot of this is gravel. We came in with a no-till drill, and we drilled these brassicas in late July, early August. And my gosh, at the food out here. This has just been a tremendous food plot for us. It's surrounded by thicket. We have seen lots and lots of deer utilizing this plot. There's a blind here pretty close, and one of my hunters kind of looked it over, and he said, "Ain't gonna be no deer using that plot." And he says he kind of turned his back to it. And he said about an hour or two into the hunt, he said he looked over here and this whole field was just full of deer and eating all this stuff, and they use it as a good transition, and this spot was just really getting used a lot. I expect that to continue, but that's something 4 or 5 years ago around here that I wouldn't have expected very much. I wouldn't have expected the brassicas to have been one of the better plots of 2023. I think we figured some things out on the brassicas. I think we figured out that the fertility has to be there for them. I think we figured out that the plant population is so critical. Not having too much out there and rotating this crop around, not planting it on the same food plot every single year. All of those things, I think, have made this a big time deal for whitetails in West Kentucky. So I'm tickled to death with this stuff right here. I will definitely be planting more of it in 2024. The cereal rye that I planted this year, so long story short, I wanted to plant the buck forage oats, but my dealer could not get any in stock. So I don't know if they had a shortage of them this year, or if just more people bought them than normal, or what was going on, but I couldn't get any in stock. If you've watched my videos very long, buck forage oats are my favorite, followed quickly by cereal rye and then winter wheat. So I couldn't get the buck forage oats, so I opted for cereal rye. We did get some use out of the cereal rye, there's no doubt about that. We got some deer in the plots, but as far as a standalone plot for cereal rye this year, we had minimal success with it this year. I'm not a big fan of just planting cereal rye in a food plot. I'm a big fan of mixing a whole bunch of different things. And I think that's one thing that really helped us this year was, the standing corn that I had on the farms was not really getting hit. But the brassicas were. Well, I had standing corn and brassicas and cereal rye. I had all those different food plots mixed into one, so that when the corn went down for rifle season, we still had 2 food sources in there that those whitetails were eating, in the cereal rye and the brassicas. So when another food source goes down, say the brassicas go down this late muzzleloader, the standing corn should pick back up and should continue to feed those whitetails. So when I reflect back on the rifle of 2023, I think, man, it was tough over the food plots. I could have just done a lot of my hunting in the woods, Mother Nature's food plot of the white oak acorns, and I would have done just as well. But here's what I have now. My food plots that those whitetails didn't hardly eat during November, well, they've got December, January, February now. They've got high quality food out on these farms. And all that does is do nothing but help your whitetails for next year. And as game managers, as land managers, that's got to be just as important as killing those mature bucks this year, is making sure they have the best start that they can possibly get for 2024. That's where this comes from right here. So if we would not have planted the food plots, and we're just gonna depend on acorns, right? The acorns are great. They're gonna last them a good way through winter, but there's still gonna be a couple months spell there that those acorns are gonna rot. They're not gonna be as plentiful in a lot of places, and those whitetails are needing to build back reserves after this rut. If I would have just relied on the acorns, once they're gone, the whitetails have very minimal to eat there for a couple months. But because they did not eat this during the gun season, now they have tons and tons and tons of food to help them survive this winter and get a good start on the 2024 growing season. And that's all we're doing as game managers, as land managers, is trying to help our herd by filling in the voids. Basically, we don't need to fill in the voids for when whitetails have plenty of food. There's not a void there. They have plenty of food. This is the time that we need to be filling the voids in. And that's what we try to do here at DIY Food Plot Pro. We're trying to show you how to do these things, how to plant these plots, how to have success with them, and help you do better with your food plots and have better opportunities, more opportunities to kill mature whitetails. So thank you guys for watching. Y'all hang in there, keep hunting hard. I hope you've had great luck this year hunting the mature whitetails. Thank you.